All right. Welcome to this week's episode of the Expat Talk Show. I'm your host, Ethan Mitchell. This episode is going to be a little different from our other shows throughout our broadcasts, many seasons. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the literary element of foreshadowing across the stories Seven by Andrew Kevin Walker, The Cask of Amontillado, by Edgar Allan Poe, and Sharp Objects by Gilligan Flynn. No, please, don't turn the channel. I promise this is going to be good. And after my initial thoughts of the way the three stories use foreshadowing, we here at the Expat Talk Show are going to open up the phone lines to questions from viewers like you. All right, we're going to start this program by talking about the foreshadowing scene in Seven. Okay, after Mills argues with the cop about whether they checked the gluttony victims for breathing, Somerset has this to say. Somerset, I wonder, what exactly was the point of the argument you were about to get into? Mills, don't know. How many times has Bonnie Fife, good reference, found dead bodies that weren't dead? Well, this is great piece of foreshadowing. Now, what Seven is able to do is have jokes like this. I mean, not jokes, it's not, but have pieces of, what's his name, being kind of a dick, Brad Pitt's character, because it's easy to play it off as, oh, okay, this is just us getting used to this character. He's a hothead. He's, anxious to get out there. But really, this is foreshadowing, and it's masked as a joke because the sloth victim was not dead. So this was very well done. Gould's wife, the wife of the greed victim, has bloody glasses drawn on her in the greed scene. We'll have a picture there. And this is important for two reasons. One, because of the emphasis on the eyes. Now, Gould's wife helps catch or helps find that the painting is actually upside down, right? So she has that vision, which is important because if you think about it, I mean, John Doe could have done, bloody mouth or ears or whatever, but it was the eyes. He was important to fix on the eyes. And secondly, it's important because in the very next scene, Somerset recounts a story of something that happened just last night, that a guy gets mugged just a couple blocks from the precinct, in that they had both of their eyes stabbed out. So, again, this importance on the eyes, which is very, interesting because it's the very next scene. Okay. I want to talk about, okay. Also, all right, so our next piece of, foreshadowing that we get in Seven is a box with photos that says, "To the world from me." Now, this is very important because this is the first, one of the first clues we get as to the John Doe being a photographer, right? And this is very important. This is during the sloth scene, by the way. So that's our first clue, first piece of foreshadowing that he's a photographer. Our second piece of foreshadowing that John Doe is a photographer is that after a guy, presumably someone that works for the press, photographs Mills, Somerset says they pay police for information and they pay well. And he does this on the stairs. And I want you to remember that they pay the police and that it's on the stairs. Those are both very important. But also, it's important because it's our second piece of foreshadowing, our second hint as to John Doe being a photographer. Okay, I want to talk about, after getting John Doe's list of flagged books from the FBI, Mills, reading the titles, says, "Of Human Bondage," which is a book, and Somerset says, "Not what you're thinking." Now, this is again foreshadowing masked as a joke. This is really well done because, of course, you think, all right, well, Mills is he's a kid. He doesn't know what, bondage means. And so it ends up serving as a double entendre for the joke. But it's not a joke. It's actually foreshadowing. Well, it is a joke, but it's foreshadowing. It's foreshadowing that because the next murder is lust, and that has a element of kind of bondage, stuff. Yeah, I don't know how to. Yeah, bondage stuff. We'll call it that. Yeah, I once tried bondage with a girl. She made me set up a safe word. My safe word was boring. Anyway, that's such a kid joke. Anyway, but that's foreshadowing. But again, it's masked as a joke. So well done. John Doe takes Mills to the fifth floor. Yes, this is also important because the fifth circle of hell is wrath, and so John Doe takes Mills there physically and metaphorically, and he uses Mills's hot-headedness, right? He is able to goad him through that, which is at the end how he's able to goad Mills into becoming Wrath. So he gets him both ways in this, and so it foreshadows he's slowly taking him down there. Well done. The final piece of foreshadowing that I want to talk about was Mills sees his photo in the bathtub. Oh, this is very important. So when you rewatch it, all the pictures that that John Doe has developed. Oh, also this is the payoff for the photography stuff, right? For those two pieces. Anyway, all the pictures that he's been developing are of victims, right? But we just don't know that Mills is the only one, right? And we're thinking, okay, well, why is Mills there? Well, that's because he's a victim too. We just don't know it yet. Similarly to Lust. Remember, he had Lust. The lady, the young lady, she was also photographed, but she wasn't dead yet. So they were, so they should have known Mills was next. That's okay. We all make mistakes. All right, that is the foreshadowing as far as Seven goes. And now we're going to talk about the Cask of Amontillado. All right, now we're going to talk about the foreshadowing scene in Cask by Edgar Allan Poe. Now I've already done this for an English paper. My English teacher will know what I'm talking about. For the other thousands of viewers out there, you won't, but that's not important. I just wanted to talk about this briefly because I already kind of discussed it in something else. Just take my word for it. So I have a quote. "I shall not die of a cough," said Fortunato. True, I replied. So of course this is use of irony in the story, which is a big theme, but it's also foreshadowing, right? Because in Cask, he, as you well know, because you surely read it, that he doesn't die from a cough. He dies from a trowel, among other things, which is what brings me to the second piece of main piece of foreshadowing in Cask. Is the Freemason joke with Fortunato. So of course this plays into the irony role as well, but it's also great foreshadowing because, and if you don't know, Fortunato attempts to make a secret handshake with the narrator. The narrator doesn't know what he's doing; he doesn't follow. And Fortunato says, "Oh, okay, well, I guess you're not a Freemason, or you're not a Mason." And the narrator pulls out a trowel from his cloak and says, "No, I am a Mason." And so, of course, that serves the irony purpose, but it's also foreshadowing for how Fortunato will die, which is, of course, by a trowel. And then Fortunato laughs. I mean, that was a good one. Let's face it. That was hilarious. It's practically who's on first. But I want to talk about it because it's a payoff too, which is important. That trowel that he presents serves as a payoff at the end, right? Because that's what he uses to wall him off. So keep that in mind for our discussion later. All right, let's move on to sharp objects. But first, a word from our sponsor. Charmin Ultra Strong. Everyone goes, so why not enjoy the go with Charmin Ultra Strong? That's right, folks. Have you ever taken a shit, wiped your ass, and thought, well, that was a letdown? Well, gone are those days with Charmin Ultra Strong. See, if wiping your ass on Bluetooth mode is not your thing, then you need to try Charmin Ultra Strong. Now, our competitors will tell you that their toilet paper is just as absorbent. But that's a load of shit. Everyone goes, so why not enjoy the go? with Charmin Ultra Strong. And don't forget to check out our new product, Charmin Ultra Strong, ribbed for her pleasure.
Ethan, what are you doing in there? You've been in there a long time.
Masturbating?
Don't lie to me.
Alright, I was using the new Charmin Ultra Strong.
That kid.
Thank you. And finally, we're going to talk about the foreshadowing seen in Sharp Objects. Now, there's a lot of foreshadowing. It would take forever to go through it all with Camille's self-harm and, the hunting cabin, and there's a lot to work with. But we're specifically going to focus on teeth and the dollhouse because I think that's the most relevant piece of foreshadowing, and that's where most of it is anyway. So first off, teeth is mentioned 69 times. God bless, Control F. So we're not going to talk about all of them. It would just take too long. So we're going to take some important ones. So in page 33, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Now, this is important, obviously, because this is one of our first mentions of teeth. And that, as you know, almost taking some teeth. So, but we'll talk about later why tooth for tooth is important, but also contradictory. So keep that in mind. But that's our first piece. Another thing is, these are on my phone. Hold on, because I can't write it all down. On page 129, we get in the famous ivory floor that made everything glow as if we were in snowy moonlit landscape. She tossed the pillows onto the floor, pulled back the covers, and motioned for me to sit in the bed. Then got in next to me. Now, this is important because, as we know throughout the story, that Camille was never allowed in that room. She could never be in her mother's room. That was strictly forbidden. But when her mother is taking her in, now she finally gets to experience that floor. So it's very important. Again, keep in mind the floor. Well, you've already read it, so it's not like I'm building up to something. But and then the dollhouse quote. Now this comes on page 42 and 43. When we first, when it reveals that we first, I guess we already met Amma, but outside on the porch, I saw a changeling. Keep that word in mind. A little girl with her face aimed intently at a huge 4-foot dollhouse, fashioned to look exactly like my mother's home. Long blonde hair drifted in disciplined rivulets down her back, which was to me. As she turned, I realized it was the girl I'd spoken to at the edge of the woods, the girl who'd been laughing with her friends outside Natalie's funeral, the prettiest one. So this is important because now we know who Amma is, and also the first thing we get of her is that she's staring at this dollhouse. So clearly it's very important, and it is at the end. So she's obsessed with this dollhouse, and she has the tantrum and stuff. Again, we don't have time to go through everything, but Amma also says on page 108 to Camille and Dick, or to Camille specifically, "You could kill me right now, and Dick still wouldn't be able to figure it out." That's foreshadowing because, Dick, well, first off, Dick didn't figure it out. And also because, nobody could figure it out. It was Amma. It was right under their nose, and that's what she's getting at. You could do it right in front of Dick, and he wouldn't know. And finally, I wanted to talk about, again, this is, okay. This would be on page 227. The floor of my mother's room, the beautiful ivory tiles made of human teeth. 56 tiny teeth, cleaned and bleached and shining from the floor. So that's where we get that big reveal that Amma, this is the payoff. Amma is finally revealed to be the killer. And so we get that payoff with the floor and the dollhouse. So it ties it all together nicely. And I think that quote is probably the most important. All right. And now, before we take your calls, we're going to do a thing called I Don't Know It for a Fact, I Just Know It's True. This is where we present with you things that we're pretty sure we know, but Just can't quite prove. This is actually not my bit. But we're going to do it with Sharp Objects characters, so... Alright. I don't know it for a fact that Gayla gets really uncomfortable during Calhoun Day. I just know it's true. You'd have had to seen the show. That's okay. That one wasn't funny. I don't know it for a fact that James Capizzi is either going to turn out 10 times better or 10 times worse than all the other kids in Wind Gap. I just know it's true. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Alright, where were we? I don't know for a fact that Dodora's secret formula was actually just Panera lemonade. I just know it's true. I don't know for a fact that Vickery thinks Voltaire is the bad guy in Harry Potter. I just know it's true. I don't know for a fact that... Oh, God. I don't know for a fact that Dodora fucks Alan with a strap-on. I just know it's true. Nothing wrong with that. I don't know it for a fact that all the women of Wind Gap secretly take Ozempic. Okay, well that one probably is true. I don't know it for a fact that after finding Camille and John Keane in the motel, Richard started writing his manifesto about how nice guys always finish last on Reddit. I just know it's true. I didn't know it for a fact that John Keane never fucked Ashley because she's clingy enough as it is. I just know it's true. I don't know it for a fact that Jackie O'Neill is appearing on the second season of MILF Manor. That's some freaky shit. That's disgusting. But I just know it's true. I don't know it for a fact that Curry's wife cringes a little bit when he calls Camille Cubby. I just know it's true. I don't know it for a fact that everyone in Adora's clique has an annoying piece of shit dog that looks exactly like this, and all somehow named Princess, but I just know it's true. I don't know it for a fact that Bob Nash didn't vaccinate his kids. I just know it's true. I don't know it for a fact that Gayla is stuck in the sunken place. Yeah, well, that one probably is true. I don't know it for a fact that HBO blew all their money on Amy Adams and had to find an off-brand Rob Reiner for Curry. I just know it's true. I don't know it for a fact that Ashley Wheeler spends her time trying to come up with viral TikTok dances. I just know it's true. I don't know for a fact that Vickery thinks that feminine products are groceries that you buy at Whole Foods instead of Walmart. I like that one. I just know it's true. And finally, I don't know it for a fact that Alma and her friends killed Natalie because she forgot to wear pink on Wednesdays. I just know it's true. All right, and now this. All right, folks, it's your opportunity to now call into our station and ask questions. So, our first one is, let's see, David from Nashville. All right, David, you're on.
Hey, Ethan. Why do you think Mills calls himself Serpico while flirting with his wife? You know, in the first scene we see with the two of them, right after the credits, you know? Why do you think he calls him that?
All right, well, thank you, David. That's actually a pretty good question. I wanted to talk about that a little bit more. So if you don't know, Serpico was a cop back in New York. Now, in 7 is an unnamed city, but and he tried to crack down on crime, but on corruption within his police force, and was betrayed by his precinct for it, and even I think was shot in the face or something. I don't know. I read the Wikipedia like 30 minutes ago. That's not what's important, though, David. What's important is that, like I said, after the guy photographs Mills, what's presumed to be the press, Somerset says they pay police for information, and they pay well. And I think that really goes to show, you know, that's part of the foreshadowing. Also, he's on the stairs, just like, you know, when he takes him to the 5th floor, like we discussed before. Another piece of foreshadowing is Mills is disgusted with Somerset when revealing that the FBI keeps tabs on people, reading habits, right? And he's upset about having to go through this back alley thing, right? And that shows us a lot about Mills because he's, gung ho and he's a hothead, like we said. But this is a step too far for him. This kind of corruption, and that that brings us to our last one, which is John Doe to Mills on his wife. It's disturbing how easily a member of the press can purchase information from the men in your precinct. So it shows that at the end of the day, the actual Serpico was betrayed by his own men too, and so was Mills. So that's it's a nice little tidbit of foreshadowing. So great question, David. All right, let's take the next caller. All right, our next caller is Jeffrey from Newark. Jeffrey.
Hey, Ethan. Nice observation on foreshadowing. Quick question. Did you foreshadow your mom coming over to my place last night? I bet.
Okay, moving on. All right, we have Craig from Ferguson on the line. What's your question, Greg?
Hey, Ethan. Big fan. What do you think of Somerset Switchblade? Seems to be a big part of his character. What do you think?
Actually, I'm really glad you brought this up, Craig. So Somerset Switchblade is actually a very interesting thing to me, right? And it's foreshadowing that personally I think was just a fluke. Or sorry, not a fluke, a blunder. So Somerset's Switchblade comes up a lot. In fact, it's in the opening scene with Somerset's opening ritual, right? Morning ritual, which is, he grabs his wallet, his keys, his badge, and the switchblade. Then Somerset uses a switchblade to cut the tape of the gluttony crime scene, so we get another look at it. Then Somerset plays darts with his switchblade, but he's not quite on target, as you can see. We'll put a picture up there for you. He's not quite on target, right? But he's practicing. Then Somerset uses it again to cut open the greed crime scene painting, as I'm sure you've seen. Now, again, instead of using his metronome, he starts playing darts with the switchblade again, right? But now he's getting bullseyes. Okay, so he's been practicing and he's getting good, right? So we see it happening. So the last time we see it, you'd think, oh, well, of course, he's gonna, throw it at the bad guy and he's gonna get him right in the eye, ideally, because, the eye, like with the blood, that would be perfect, right? Well, you'd be wrong, Craig from Ferguson, because the last thing we ever get is Somerset uses the switchblade to open the package with Gwyneth Paltrow's head. So, fucking bullshit, if you ask me. But yeah, that's the payoff that never was. So that's what I think of the switchblade. Great question though. Almost good foreshadowing. All right, we have Matthew from Salt Lake City on the line. Matthew.
Hey, dipshit, are you even wearing pants?
I apologize to our younger viewers at home. And no, I'm not wearing pants. All right, our next call is Heidi from Charleston. You're on the air, Heidi.
Hi, Ethan. I know that Cask has a lot of irony, but did you notice any irony in the movie Seven? Thanks.
Yes, Heidi, actually I did. In fact, I took some notes on it, conveniently for you. So the irony of Gould's, being like a scumbag lawyer, who helped get a pedophile off, as we can see in the, well, maybe that's a bad way of putting it. No, he didn't get a pedophile off. He you know what I'm trying to say. So it's ironic that John Doe hates that, but John Doe's lawyer is also a scumbag, and so much so that he tries to blackmail the police. So it kind of didn't really make sense to me. That was a good bit of irony. Yeah, that's his lawyer. The second worst person to ever wear a bow tie. Yeah, what else? Also. You'd think Kevin Spacey would be a little bit more forgiving to a pedophile. Oh, come on now. Yeah, cut off her nose to spite her face. I don't know if you caught that in the Pride scene. That was a good bit of irony. It was a little on the nose. I hate myself too. It's okay. But yeah, it was kind of way too on the nose. That's not important. The last thing I will say is Mills. It's pretty cheeky. We know that John Doe is named John Doe, and of course you're thinking, come on, like really. But Mills says, oh, he realizes and says he's John Doe by choice, and I think that was very important because you realize why he's called John Doe, right? That that's the textbook anonymous name. And I think that was a good bit of irony. I like that quite a bit. Thank you for your question. All right, can we get the next caller? All right, our next caller is Jackson from Quantico. Jackson?
Hey, Ethan. I thought the spokesmen for Charmin were a bunch of bears, not a twink.
Okay. Let's move on. All right. Our next question is from Jared from Tupelo. What's your question, Jared?
Hey, man. Look, there's a lot of numbers in 7. I don't know if you noticed, but do you think any of those have any meaning, like extra meaning? Just curious.
Actually, yeah, there's quite a bit. Nah, do I want to fucking do this part? No, I kind of don't. But, because these are cool, but we're going so fucking long. What is cool, though, is when I realized that I was time stamping, Mills gets a call while he's hanging out with Gwyneth Paltrow at exactly 7 minutes into the movie. There's more, but shit, we don't have time. All right, let's go to the next caller. All right, our next caller is John from Quantico. John, you're on the air.
Hey, Ethan. They say the camera adds 5 pounds. How does it feel to look 105 pounds, you scrawny?
Are you guys even fucking vetting these? All right, and our final viewer for tonight is Christina from Little Rock. All right, Christina, you're on.
Hey, Ethan. I love your show, and I think you're so handsome. Anyway, I was wondering if you found any similarities between Cask, 7, and Sharp Objects. Okay, thanks.
Yes, Christina, I did. Thank you. So actually, let's talk about those now. All right, so to answer your question, Christina, I think 7 and Cask are certainly related. For John Doe's, God, I'm fucking sweaty as shit. John Doe to Mills, how happy would it make you to hurt me with impunity? Now, of course, that stood out to me because the foreshadowing of Cask is that nobody hurts me with impunity. I talked about this in my paper, so that's why I didn't want to talk about it. I know, Christina, you don't know what I'm talking about, but so that does remind me of that. And also, John Doe gets his revenge, right? Just like the narrator in Cask. So, there's similar foreshadowing there for sure. John Doe is an unreliable narrator because he doesn't date his journals. Yes, I thought that was also interesting. That's not something we were talking about, really, but I thought that was also interesting that they're both kind of crazy. Now, motto of House Montresor is Nemo me impune lacet. I think I don't speak gibberish, but in English. That is, no one attacks us with impunity. Oh, yeah, we already talked about that. Okay, well, no, now you don't have to take my word for it. Also, Montresor's crest is a huge human foot of gold in a field, a blue field. The foot crushes a serpent whose fangs are embedded in the heel. So I thought that this was interesting, and I talked about this in my previous writing. But yes, that is similar to 7, that nobody wins, right? In that situation. Yes, you did. Nobody attacks you with impunity, but neither of you won. It's a lose-lose game. So I thought that was interesting because it works for foreshadowing for a Cask, and it's fun little twist with 7. The flambeau becomes dimmer as they get further down the crypt. Yes, in 7, the darker the shot, the darker the subject matter, generally speaking. But we talked about the color theory before, so I'm not. That's not my thing. I'm not going to talk about that. But I did think that was interesting. That Seven's use of color theory and darkness, and the fact that, and of course you can't see, but it's kind of presented to you as imaginary, color theory. So I thought that was very interesting. Yeah, that it becomes darker, or dimmer rather, as they go down in the crypt. And finally, the narrator is a narcissist, right, in Cask. So we can't tell if it really happened, like the joke specifically, or if he's just saying that it did during the during the recounting of the story, because it is recounting. And I also thought that might have been true for John Doe's anecdote, right, when he said that he threw up on a guy in the metro. I mean, if somebody threw up on the metro, there'd probably be like a maybe not a police report, but that would be verifiable, right? I mean, there's certain things. I mean, John Doe, his scribblings were, So I thought that unreliable narrator was not a similarity in foreshadowing, but certainly a similarity. All right, let's talk about sharp objects in Cask. This is just one. They're not as similar as the other two are. Why the teeth? Why these girls who were so bright and interesting? How could they have offended her? Page 229 of Sharp Objects. Yeah, the idea of offending Amma, it can't be explained, and I think that goes back to Cask, right? It's like, can't really be explained. There is no. He claims that Fortunato offended her, but like Amma, there's nothing to it. Okay, that was fucking stupid. I shouldn't have. Why did I write that down? Okay, well, sharp objects in 7. Yes, well, I thought this was interesting. Amma, at the end, in page 229, Amma had cut her hair close to the scalp. It's revealed to us that she, once she goes to prison, which I thought was interesting because John Doe also had his hair cut to the scalp, and Camille describes it as otherworldly, that it was heinous to look at, and I thought the same thing of what's his name, John Doe. Oh, this is great actually. Ernest Hemingway. Okay, so in 7, the final line is Ernest Hemingway once said, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for." I agree with the second part. Great. This is the final quote, with like one sentence taken out, of Sharp Objects. Was I good at caring for Amma because of kindness, or did I care for Amma because I have Adora's sickness? Lately, I've been leaning towards kindness. So you see how they're very parallel. I mean, we'll put them up on the screen, but very parallel. And I love. I thought that was interesting, rereading and re-watching both. That's a great similarity. All right, and as far as similarities go, for all of them, so on page 9 of Sharp Objects, Camille says, I knew I should have prepared my notes, jot down questions. Instead, I drank more bourbon, then popped some aspirin, turned off the lights. Yes. Also, she says, that was page 9. She also says, I gave Amma 2 aspirin. The spell made my mouth water. I poured the rest down the drain. So clearly has a thing with aspirin. And in 7, they find bottles of aspirin in John Doe's apartment. We'll put the picture up there, for his limp, right? Very similar to Perry, who also had a limp and was also, he was taking aspirin? No, he was swallowing aspirin? He was raw dogging aspirin, right? Of course, as you well know. And also this goes back to the unreliable narrator, because I don't know if you noticed, who's your name? I forget whose question I'm answering, but the unreliable narrator comes into play because what's his name doesn't have a limp all the time. John Doe doesn't have a limp all the time. Like when he turns himself in, he doesn't have a limp. There's a couple of other scenes. I'd have to go back, but he doesn't always have a limp, which is strange. So yeah, like, can you trust this guy? All right, narrator of Cask leads Fortunato to the crypts, and John Doe leads Mills to the field. Right, Mills and Somerset to the field. Both are out of their comfort zones and are led to their demise. Yes, this is very important. I thought that it was interesting that in Cask, it's the criminal who leads his victim to where stuff's gonna go down, if you will. And so too in Seven, right, with John Doe, he leads them there, and actually similarly, Camille, right, she's not in her comfort zone at home, right, because she, I mean, for a number of reasons, right, but I mean, she can't be in her mom's room. She can't talk about the things that, the story and that kind of thing, and in fact, actually, the room is where her mother takes her, right, to sicken her. So she's not in her comfort zone. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, leading people into the trap was certainly true of all three of them. And those are my notes on that. Well, thank you for tuning in tonight to see this expat talk show. I'm your host, Ethan Mitchell, and good night.